Worksheet on factoring. Question 4. Factor if possible. Well, this is a worksheet. I'd like you to copy all the 4 questions and try them yourself. Once you've done the factoring, then you can look into my suggestions or solution. One more note I would like to tell you is that I'll recommend that you watch the videos on communication questions, how to factor, C1, C2, C3 series. And then if you need more practice, then we have tutorial videos, and go through those tutorial videos. You'll find a lot of problems to practice in those videos. Okay. Now here in these 4 questions, I'll solve 2 of them for you. I find them slightly different from the normal ones, and the rest 2 you do. Well, basically you need to do grouping in these 4 questions. A, n cube minus n square minus n plus 1. Now you can group them of 2's. Now this seems to be a logical group, correct? Most of the time first 2 and last 2 work fine, unless and until you see a trend, right? Thus, so we can take n square common here and we'll get n minus 1, and here we can take minus 1 common, right? Since nothing is common, 1 is always common. So you retain this sign always and start with brackets. Don't write 1 or minus 1 here. It is obvious that we have taken minus 1 common here, right? So when you put a bracket with minus outside, sign inside will change. So that will be n minus 1. It is also a good time to check. So if you multiply and open this bracket, then you get what? Minus n plus 1, which is the actual thing, right? Now these 2 are equivalent expressions. So let's continue with these equivalent expressions. Now we find that n minus 1 is a common factor in these 2 terms. So let's take that as common. And when you divide this by n minus 1, you get n square minus 1. So that seems to be the factored form. Factoring really means that you have to factor until and unless there are no common factors. N square minus 1. Does that remind you of something? It's kind of difference of squares, right? So it can be further factored. So we should write this as n minus 1 times difference of squares is n plus 1 times n minus 1. Now we get 2n minus 1. So it is better practice to write this as n minus 1 whole square times n plus 1, right? So that is our final answer for A, right? So I find this example to be very typical in the sense that we have an additional step of factoring. Second, since we had a common factor like that, it's good to write n square first. So in an equation you'll find, the numbers with higher degree are written before the numbers with lower degree. It is a nomenclature and it's good to follow that. That's why I wrote n minus 1 square first before n plus 1, okay? Now, let me just do this one. In factoring trinomials, where you have ax squared plus bx plus c, we split the middle term and we are always landing with 2 terms and then a situation like this. So this is a very common situation which you land up with. Now here, there is a very interesting case, and that is, do you see anything common here? We have x minus 1 and this is 1 minus x. It is not x minus 1. But if I make this negative, then it does become x minus 1. So these are situations which you do come across, and it's good to be aware of these situations, right? And that's the reason of having this question here. So let's rewrite this so that we can really see the common factor, right? So what I'll do is I'll make it minus outside. If I make it minus outside, the inside terms, this becomes minus 1 and that becomes plus x, which I can write as x minus 1, correct? This is equivalent expression. But now you can see that x minus 1 is a common factor. So let's factor that out. So we get what? X minus 1, and here you're left with 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. So it's better to write 2 times x minus 1 as our answer, right? So sometimes your expressions can really be simplified to a large extent. right? This, of course, you can do by grouping, so I'll leave that for you. So you can group them like this and continue. Here also, you can group them and you'll get your result. So try them out. If there are any problems, do share with me, okay? Write your comments. I'll get back to you. Thank you and all the best.